Welcome, Cyclone fans, to the latest edition of the Nightcap. Jesus Christ, Matthias, what's on?
Actual fucking Notre Dame hat on, you tool.
What? Is
Are
that
you
not
kidding
where
me?
we're going?
Are you kidding me right now?
Oh,
Anyways.
this whole thing?
Oh, this whole thing. Damn it.
Go Irish.
All right,
So?
Aiden.
What
the hell are we talking about?
guys?
I'm fucking burnt out, man.
It's been a weekend.
Tired of this shit. I'm tired of it. This all sucks. I know Matthias was scrounging quite a few message boards and stuff like that over the weekend.
Let me tell you about message boards. They were a hell of a drug. And they still continue to be a hell of a drug. As we went on the went on the air here right before, I was telling these guys as a rabbit hole is taking me down some deep paths here as of some developments that are happening according to message boards in the last, 20 minutes. It's crazy stuff.
All right.
Let's do some more.
Oh, man. So I guess, Aiden, what are we talking about today? Christmas presents?
We could recap one of the greatest weekends of Iowa State history.
We could.
We
could start with that.
Anyway.
What started out really good.
Yeah.
And then got mega stressful.
Can't be around the bush much longer.
We probably can discuss that, but might as well just get the monkey off our back, right?
Let's talk about the good stuff first.
Let's talk about address the breaking news. Bill Fenley says he's not leaving. So
yeah, Bill Fenley's not going to Notre Dame. So that's
that's all
excellent news. Really, truly great news.
Did you guys see that quote where he made fun of Sonny Dykes for flying
with the helicopter?
Yeah.
Because he's like, what is that, 15 mile, 15-minute drive? Like, what are we doing here? Which is honestly a very fair thing. So I actually was told the story behind this TCU helicopter over the weekend because our good friend Jamie Plunkett from Frogs of War, he came up for the game and tailgated with us and all this stuff. So he was talking about the origin story of this TCU helicopter. So what it was, I can't remember exactly what year it was. We said 5-10 years ago, Gary Patterson was going to visit a couple recruits that were playing at home somewhere in the DFW metro, and he was trying to see them both on the same night. So he talked to a donor and said, "Man, I'm trying to get from this place to this place," or whatever. And the donor said, "Say no more," and showed up with a helicopter 10 minutes later, slapped a big TCU magnet on the side, and here we are. So all it was it originated as a way for Gary Patterson to travel between high school games in the Dallas-Fort Worth metro. And it is now just a TCU helicopter that they use to drop coaches onto the field. That's just FU money right there. That's what that is.
We're definitely going to get to this because the dream is still alive.
The dream is still alive.
Very well alive.
Nobody believed me at the beginning, but here we are.
The drunkest basketball preview of all time is somehow coming through. Somehow coming true.
Some of us were prepared for greatness.
He's got the shine. He's got the shine.
Speaking of drunk.
Oh yeah. You want to do you got the ad read, and then I'll get the
ad read.
You don't know what? So Stops Bar and Grill is a restaurant in Campus Town.
No way.
They've sponsored us for a long time.
Tell us more.
Oh my gosh, I will. They have the best tacos, maybe in the state of Iowa, probably beyond that.
In the Dallas-Fort Worth metro.
Yeah, at least. I have good authority from Marchie that they are every bit as good as tacos you can get down in Texas. Anyways, so they have their Taco Tuesday special, which will be going on as we speak. You had, really, really cheap tacos there. Burger Wednesday, FAC specials on Friday. Well, there are no game days really left besides the bowl game for this one, but on basketball games and stuff like that, they have drink specials on the weekends. All sorts of good stuff there. Plus, they have their 11 to 3 every single day unlimited tacos for $8 for 4 hours a day, which is an amazing deal. So definitely head on down to Estas for some delicious tacos and more Estas punch than you or me or anybody else cares to drink at one single sitting. And well, actually, you finished it, Matthias. Yeah, you did.
Yeah, unless your name is Matthias Schwarzkopf, you finish the whole goddamn thing and then have another one right after.
You a Stops punch drinking psychopath. Yeah. So definitely head on down to a Stoss down in Campstown. Also, another speaking of drunk. So we came up with a game this week. It is the Wide Right Now Like Coaching Carousel drinking game. Let's see here. Yeah. So you see at the ticker at the bottom here, right below me. Anytime you hear the phrase/phrases sources, doesn't move the needle, 7 and 5, dark horse, or overrated, you have to take a drink. So obviously none of those.
Say, before we start, my sources are telling me that Matt Campbell does not move the needle because he was a 7 and 5 coach.
I feel like you're cheating.
He remains a dark horse, although he's overrated.
Well done.
So let's start from the beginning. Friday happens. We blast the rails off TCU. They didn't even exist that game.
Hell, we could start on Wednesday even.
Okay. What happened Wednesday?
We beat Xavier.
What?
We beat Xavier. First top.
We did beat Xavier. Yeah, beat the brakes off of Xavier.
There were no sources that confirmed that, but it was also seen by all of us. So Xavier happens. We beat the brakes off them. Then we all get drunk and eat turkey and everything like that. And some would call turkey an overrated meat. But as
I feel like you're cheating. You're clearly cheating.
Now we move on to Friday. We beat the brakes off TCU. They're basically non-existent, and all is well. So send the seniors off on a good note. The greatest senior class in Iowa State history is coming out a winner, and now they're moving on to the bowl game. So we move into playing Memphis on Friday night, where we also beat the brakes off that overrated team. And things start to sprinkle out in the, I guess you want to call it the dark end of the web, that Matt Campbell and USC are going to begin talking as early of Saturday morning. Saturday rolls around. I'm kind of in full out freak out mode, scouring the ends of the internet.
Matthias was freaking out in the Slack.
I was all over this.
He was stressing. He was making everybody else stressed out by him being so stressed out.
And then you kind of go through Saturday. Oklahoma loses. Then Riley's name starts to pop up. And then lo and behold, Sunday, Lincoln Riley is taking the job at USC. And you kind of hear from some people that possibly Matt Campbell was number 2 to take that job. And the whole, basically at that moment in time, I guess you could say Oklahoma saved our ass by getting their ass kicked. But so then I think everybody knows at that point in time, Chris Williams was basically saying Iowa State feels like they're in real good position that Matt Campbell will be the coach. They're out recruiting. They were recruiting all weekend. They're out recruiting right now.
Business as usual is what he called it. Yeah,
we assume. Then Brian Kelly takes the LSU job.
Oh, no. You skipped so much stuff.
Oh, it doesn't even matter. Oh, okay. Well, then you could look at Washington, I guess, if you want to.
Because then there was the Washington stuff that was getting made. Like, all the Washington boards were dead confident that Matt Campbell was going to be the next coach of the Washington Huskies.
So
for
Saturday
it felt
morning.
like,
go ahead.
It felt like we kind of thought that maybe USC was like almost a real thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's fair to say.
Yeah.
And then Washington people were like, "Nah, he's coming here." We're like, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Washington fans, as in my back end of the internet and finding these things, there's also Florida, LSU, and Virginia Tech fans thought that he would go there as well. But
Matt Campbell's coaching all of these places.
The three real ones really are USC, Washington, and now Notre Dame. But so Washington fans were like taking flights that like came out of Ames and that flew to Washington, but like they happened to fly during the game.
Right.
That Matt Campbell was on the sideline coaching.
Right. Yeah, the flight left like an hour before the game started. It's like
the athletic director of, I don't know her last name. Her name's Jenny, and they're all on Twitter and message boards.
Yeah.
Saying, well, Jenny's going after Matt Campbell, throwing out. He's coming here. He's on that flight. A donor flew to Ames to pick him up, but half those flights were either leaving Ames going to Washington and never coming back during that time. So like they flew from Ames during the game to Washington. Somehow Matt Campbell is coaching in the game on the sideline, physically on the sideline, and also in that plane. going to take the Washington job.
Just delusional.
And so they're taking all that and they're saying it's happened. There's fans of Washington posting like gifs of Campbell's soup,
right?
Saying Washington's going to sell out of the Campbell's soup, all this other stuff. And then like reports were coming out like on Sunday that $7 million was tossed at Matt Campbell. He said no. And then that's when like Chris Williams was saying all this stuff that he feels pretty confident that Matt Campbell will be the head coach at Iowa State. And then we go to yesterday and Brian Kelly basically dipped out of Dodge and said, well, he might make the college football playoff, but I'm out. So,
right.
And here we are. And Jack Schwartz,
like a week ago when he said
that I'm not leaving.
He's not leaving yet. And then now, to be fair, he probably didn't know that LSU was going to come calling, but still. That said, so I saw an interesting stat is that I think it's either ever in the last 30 years, 12 coaches have left teams after winning 11 games in a season. 5 of them went to the NFL, 5 of them resigned or retired, and 2 of them left to go to another college football program. And both of those are Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly left 11-win Cincinnati to go to Notre Dame, and now is leaving 11-win Notre Dame to go to LSU. The man just does not feel like leaving a program unless it is at the top.
Yeah.
Which I guess there's something to be said for that he gets it to the top and then bails. But like where he leaves it in a good position.
There was speculation, and this was coming from a Twitter space last night. It was hosted by 2 former players, like Mike Gold Jr. was on there, some 247 guys. I mean, there was like some big hitters on this Twitter space, and they were talking about how there was rumors going around Notre Dame that Brian Kelly was upset with facility upgrades that were supposed to happen and weren't happening. Notre Dame, I don't know what Notre Dame's facilities look like. Like I've been to Notre Dame once and I was a child, so I'm sure they've completely changed since then. But you would assume that Notre Dame has really good facilities. What else do they need? Like it's probably like minor things that he asked for that he expected to be done that hadn't been done. So there was that speculation. And then they were also saying, and this was like pissing off Mike Gold Jr., was that he was hearing that maybe they weren't giving Brian Kelly, which would probably fall in the facility resources area, but other resources to make sure that Notre Dame was able to take that next step and be up there and compete with like the likes of Alabama. And he wasn't getting that. And so he pretty much said, F it, I'll go to LSU, which a team that has competed with Alabama and beat Alabama, won a national title in the same realm of time that Alabama's won all their national titles in the college football playoff era, and I'll get what I need there. And that's why he's gone. So now, the hot commodity for Notre Dame is where do they go next? So Jack Schwartz, the Notre Dame athletic director, pretty smart dude, knows what he's doing. He pretty much he's seen the low of Notre Dame football, which is much different than the low of Iowa State football, but it's never winning bowl games and being like 6-6, 7-5. That's low for Notre Dame standards. So he started there at Notre Dame when they were doing that. He fired Charlie Weiss, hired Brian Kelly, and the rest is history. We know Notre Dame as it is in this current state. So he knows what he needs to do to make the fan base happy, the boosters happy, and keep Notre Dame at a relevant state. Now, they have 2 coaches there currently that have not left for LSU yet, and that would be Marcus Freeman, their defensive coordinator, who came from Cincinnati under Luke Fickell, who also happens to be a name that Notre Dame also allegedly wants. Marcus Freeman is 35 years old, played at Ohio State, according to Aiden, fact-finding, and is considered within the coaching ranks to be the next rising superstar, to be the next guy that leads a Power 5 team to a national title. And Notre Dame's recruiting classes have followed that mold of him being their lead recruiter, guy that has connected with players, coming in to be a part of the recruiting class. So they have the number 2 ranked recruiting class in 2023. Their 2022 recruiting class is either ranked 4th or 5th. Pretty high level for at least, Notre Dame's always kind of been that top 10. They've kind of been hanging around 8, 9, 10 range. Now they're in the top 5 of these classes, and they expect them to kind of stay there if it was going to continue on as is. So Marcus Freeman, you would say, hey, that's going to be a logical hire where they can keep those guys in place and have those kids come on campus. But then there's also Tommy Rees, who's been their offensive coordinator for 2 years, played at Notre Dame under Brian Kelly. Wasn't like a really standout quarterback from stat standpoint, but he won a lot of games as a Notre Dame quarterback. And now he's their offensive coordinator, but he's also 29 years old. Some people think that he's going to stay as the offensive coordinator at Notre Dame after he meets with them either today, tomorrow, or Friday, whatever day it is. And now the fans are saying that Brian Kelly handcuffed him, didn't let him call the offense the way it needed to be. Widely regarded as a smart individual to, he's a coach's son, as they say. So he's smart. So there is that aspect of it all. But then you got Luke Fickell, obviously Cincinnati coach. He's a hot name, just like our very own Matt Campbell, who has apparently, as we know, turned down a lot of jobs in his time in Ames. But this is one of those jobs I think all Cyclone fans kind of worried about, that if it ever came open. This was
the list. Like with Ohio State, it was Ohio State, Notre Dame, and like depending on who you talk to, maybe Michigan. But like,
yeah,
this was one of them that, yeah.
So we are in the as Dr. Strange would say in Endgame, we're in the end game now.
Nerd.
And I don't there's nobody knows anything what's going to happen. Obviously, if Notre Dame called and said, "Hey, Matt Campbell, we want you to be our coach," he's probably going to say yes. Like,
right? Yeah. If they offered him the job, I wouldn't be shocked, and I wouldn't blame him for taking that. I don't know. It's a tough situation though. Like the thing about the Freeman thing is that like it seems like there is so much momentum pushing in that direction.
Like, it's not often that
you don't see
the leaves like this, and the incoming recruits say.
The incoming recruits are saying you need to hire Marcus Freeman.
The easiest way to decide who to hire in the history of hiring coaches ever.
And then Brian Kelly this summer said Marcus Freeman was probably the coach in waiting. And then, along with those two, if you go on Twitter and look at all the Notre Dame fans, they're like starting petitions to get Marcus Freeman hired as the coach. Like they're saying like, oh, retweet this, retweet this and like this or whatever, so we can show how much we want Marcus Freeman and all this. It's like, who doesn't want Marcus Freeman to be the coach of Notre Dame at this point? Like Marcus Freeman wants it, the recruits want it, the fans want it, Brian Kelly wanted it. Like, what?
And then you can also look at this. I mean,
we want it. I would like Marcus Freeman to be the coach of Notre Dame.
There's kind of clues here, though, too, with Jack Schwarbrick today. Basically, in the press conference, labeled out what he wanted to see as a head coach, which basically everything he wanted basically fit Matt Campbell and Luke Fickell to a T. But then he also didn't name an interim head coach. So either that's weird.
Right.
Because they got a bowl game coming up, could be playing in the college football playoff. 2, maybe he's already got the guy locked up to take place. Because he even said himself today, like, I kind of sensed something was happening within the last week. So, like, he was moderately prepared for this, wasn't really caught off guard by it, just probably based on feeling he was getting from Brian Kelly over the course of maybe the year. I don't know. And if maybe the facility thing was real, like he probably got a sense that Brian Kelly was pissed off at being here and was, basically bored and wanted a different challenge. So he probably has the short list already ready to roll. All athletic directors do. They have their short list. So
yeah, and that's the part they've already got their lists all ready to go and all that. I mean, like that, like even people with entrenched head coaches always have a list off to the side of people they're keeping an eye on. Like I guarantee you, Alabama's got a list off to the side. The name at the top is probably Dabo Swinney, and then it's probably there's probably a couple other people on there too, or whatever, about guys you go.
Jamie Pollard has one, and the name at the top of his list.
Jamie Pollard has a list in his drawer for what happens if Matt Campbell leaves. or whatever. Now, who's on it is anybody's guess. But there's always a list of, like, even if the sky did come falling down, there is a plan for. And I would imagine Iowa State I would imagine Jamie Pollard would probably try to work pretty quick and try to get somebody turned around and get somebody hired to make sure that we don't lose this recruiting class, which is a very good recruiting class.
And it's going to get better tomorrow.
And it's going to get better tomorrow, yeah.
I guess in terms of stars, they're bumping up.
Because there's going to be 2 more blue chip prospects.
Yeah, 2 guys that are being bumped up to 4 stars. So
Did he say who?
No.
Okay, I'm assuming Xavier Townsend's probably one of them. He's been playing out of his mind. And then maybe like Jason Essex or something like that, I guess. I don't know. Could be about anybody. I would be surprised if Rocco would make that big of a jump. He's like a 0.86 or something like that right now. He would have to make a huge jump to get to a 4-star. But anyways, it's gonna be, it's a good recruiting class that's ratings wise is gonna be even better. You need to hang on to that recruiting class. So I don't know how far we want to get into like the speculation on what happens if Matt Campbell leaves, but one of the things that you look at, especially now that we looked at what the success of TJ Otzelberger, is that you might be, and TJ Otzelberger wasn't an internal hire, but he kind of was. He was kind of like a delayed internal hire or whatever. Like, it would make a lot of sense to do an internal hire from Iowa State's standpoint. Whether maybe it's John Haycock, maybe it's Nate Shielhaas, could be Tom Manning, could be a few different people. There's always a plan, and maybe it's not one of those 3, and maybe it's I don't know, Jamie Chadwell or something like that. That's just the name I'm pulling out of my head. He's the coach at Coastal Carolina. I don't have any source that says that he would be interested, nor that Iowa State is interested, but he is a hot young coaching name. But there's always a plan for after this too. So that's kind of like, that would actually be my piece of advice for like Cyclone fans, is that they're truly, truly stressing out about whether Matt Campbell's going to leave or not. He might, and it's probably going to be really a huge, huge bummer. It's going to be a disappointment. I should say it would be a disappointment. Not saying it's gonna, but it would be a disappointment if it happened. But the foundation that he's built is pretty substantial, to the point where if a good follow up hire, whether it's an internal one or an external one, there is a foundation there that a good hire can succeed because of the foundation that's already there. You got the player base that's there. You got lots of really good young talent. Hunter Deckers is a quarterback you can build around for at least a few years. And you've got some good skill talent. Jalen Knoll, and then you got Greg Gaines coming in as a true freshman next year. You've got Isheem Young and Craig McDonald and Bo Freiler back there. You've got tons and tons of young talent on the team. It needs to be developed. You need to find a good player development coach. But if you got a coach that can recruit well and develop players or whatever, you got a pretty good foundation there. Like, Iowa State football isn't just going to immediately go back to what it was.
I think the one thing, and I tweeted this out early this morning, but I think the one thing is, though, whether we don't like it or not, the harsh reality of it is, though, that we've gone through at least the last 3 years where we have reports and stories of Matt Campbell turning down offers.
Right.
And if you get to an offer, that means you've listened. So I think it's now part of Cyclone fans is the harsh reality has set in now that, Matt Campbell is going to listen to these offers, and one of them is probably going to hit one of these days, and he will no longer be the head coach at Iowa State. And that's just the fact of the matter. And
yeah,
he loves Iowa State. Like, he loves being here. Like, he would have no problem staying here the rest of his life, I think. But that's probably not the reality of the situation. It's not like he's waking up tomorrow and like, I'm leaving Iowa State because I don't like it here. He's not doing that. But it's one of those things where opportunities are presented, where it's kind of like you and I in the professional world, where we're happy where we work now. But if somebody came calling tomorrow, that's a better opportunity because, hey, we want you to lead this group of people, and it's a better job,
right? Whatever that means.
You're probably going to listen and go.
At minimum, you're going to listen. Yeah.
It's just that it's the thing with Iowa State, though, is that the football team has seen some past greats, players, bowl games, 9-win teams, whatever it is, in terms of Iowa State great. And now being in the Fiesta Bowl, and then now 1 year removed from that, obviously missing the bar, things like that. But it's just kind of like it's a tough pill to swallow for everybody, but it's just it's the reality that we are living in. We have a sought after coach, and people are going to keep coming, and they're going to keep coming now. And that's not to say that he could end up being a Kirk Ferentz type of guy where he stays over 20 years. You know, Kirk Ferentz, literally everybody called Iowa for Kirk Ferentz. Like,
yeah, back in the mid 2000s, he was a big candidate for the Dolphins and the Browns.
The
and
NFL came every year for Kirk Ferentz, every single year, until basically, you know,
They
it
just
became
stopped.
like 7 years plus of him saying no, which we're only in 5 years of Matt Campbell saying no, that they just gave up, and nobody's, and, you know, the next crop of young coaches came up, and it was a afterthought. And, you know, maybe we get to that point, but I really don't have any reason to believe right now that that's not going to happen, because they're just going to keep going, especially if he comes back next year. He takes a team that's on paper not as great as the one.
If he wins 8 games next year with
9 games next year, they're going to come harder.
They're going to come hard. Yeah. Because they're gonna see that that Iowa State is at a point now where they can reload instead of rebuilding, and then that's getting Iowa State to that point is a whole different level of accomplishment. And
I've said this to a couple people: if you're worried about a coaching search, if there's ever time to be happy about being 7-5, it's right now.
yeah, if there's ever a good time to have a disappointing season, it's probably right now. Right now, yeah. It might be what keeps Matt Campbell in the
And that is a terrible thing to say, but it's like, you know, if
it's not wrong though.
You know, like the last, like, I guess if you want to call, like, if Matt Campbell were to take the Notre Dame job,
right?
Like after that, like Virginia Tech's been filled today, so like after that, it's like Iowa State is the last like Power 5 team without a head coach, if I'm not mistaken.
So right now it's really the main threats would be Notre Dame and then Oklahoma. You know,
Oklahoma, yeah.
But he's only like, I've only seen his name mentioned with Oklahoma, like really tangentially, like never as an actual serious candidate.
Where I'm leading into this, so like let's say Oklahoma, like Brent Venables seems like to be the favorite to be hired there. He gets hired.
He's been the overwhelming favorite.
So let's say Matt Campbell takes the Notre Dame job, then you have just Iowa State as a Power 5 job, like
right.
And we're only a week and a half away or 2 weeks away from National Signing Day. So like you got to move quick. And like, what's the move is the next, you know, it's all crazy.
It's a wild time, because like the coaching carousel now is just totally different than it ever has been in the past. Like it's like how often, like, well, I shouldn't say how often, never have we before seen a blue blood snipe another blue blood or whatever before, and like we haven't seen this level of movement among the top end of the of college
sniped
football.
OU, and we were all surprised, and then freaking LSU went right back the
and
next
sniped
day
Notre Dame. Like what the hell's going on? And it was funny because like we knew USC was looking for a coach, and we knew like there would be certain possibilities,
and there was a ton of pressure for them to make a splash hire.
Right, and we knew that LSU was also looking to pick up some big name for a splash hire. But Brian Kelly was on nobody's radar whatsoever for being some guy that might move on, because he looked totally settled in and ready to go. Like he was going to be there forever or whatever.
A guy that is 61 you're going to be 61 years old when the next season starts, had no pressure whatsoever to be like to do anything at Notre Dame that we know of. There's some things out there that said he had 3 years left on his deal. Schwarbrick wasn't going to renew it unless he won a national title. That's another thing that people think forced him out, because Schwarbrick was like, "Fuck yeah, I ain't giving you a new deal until you win me a national title," kind of thing. So I don't know. It's all nutty.
So Mark Welch has a comment here. He said, even though it's Bill Stroud Foundation, all it takes to trash it is a bad hire after him. Yes. Now we've seen plenty. That's 100% correct. Is if the next hire is bad, yeah, everything Matt Campbell would have built is gone.
That's my whole reservation in this thing, where like
is that
we know what we have in Matt Campbell. We know like
he's a known commodity for sure.
We've seen the top of like he can get you to the Big 12 title game. Like it's been done.
Right.
The after, like, so we know Matt Campbell is very loyal to his staff. Wherever he goes, he's probably gonna take a lot of them.
Right.
Like, what would be left for Iowa State after that? That's the thing that worries me. Like,
Well, I mean, it's worth noting, though, that like when he came to Iowa State, Jason Candle was the offensive coordinator for about 5 minutes, and then he got the Toledo job.
True.
And so that's part of it, too, is like let's say he wants to bring everybody, but, the new code, but let's say, I don't know, Nate Shieldhaas gets offered, or John Haycock. Let's say John Haycock gets offered the head coaching spot because he's been a head coach before. He's a defensive coordinator. Can be the steady, the steadiness in the storm type of thing. Let's say he gets offered the head coaching spot. Is Matt Campbell or is John Haycock just going to follow to Notre Dame to be the defensive coordinator and be done? Is he okay with being a head coach? Specific to John Haycock, it's hard to know because maybe he just doesn't feel like being a head coach anymore because he's getting older and whatever. Maybe he just doesn't feel like being a head coach. But let's say it's Nate Shieldhaas. Let's say they offer Nate Shieldhaas the head coach spot. I mean, even if Campbell offers him the offensive coordinator spot, like, he's not going to go be the offensive coordinator at Notre Dame when he can be the head coach at Iowa State. He's not going to do like he would be the head coach at a Power 5 job before he would be an offensive coordinator at Notre Dame. And I think that's part of it too, is who can you keep by giving them promotions at Iowa State versus them going and following to Notre Dame. Like a guy like Deion Broomfield, is he going to stay at Iowa State being an alum, or would he follow Matt Campbell to Notre Dame? I guess
what I'm saying, guys that would follow Matt Campbell would be the ones that started with the original team.
Like Eli Rashid would be one.
Like a Tom Manning.
Eli Rashid, Tyson Veit.
Yeah, like those guys. Like a Nate Shieldhaas probably would be willing to listen to other things. Like Deion Broomfield obviously would be able to
listening to him coming back to Iowa State.
Probably would love staying in Ames.
I would agree.
And John Haycock, if he got the ask, does he want to be a head coach? I don't know.
No idea. He was before, but he's toward the back end of his career right now. He's, maybe he just wants to be a defensive coordinator and do that till he retires and be done with it. Who knows? But that's kind of the thing that the tricky part about the internal hires. There's a couple really nice candidates that you could look at for that, whether Nate Shieldhaas, John Haycock, or even Tom Manning. You could look at a few different guys to be a good candidate for the internal hire, but you'd probably, just because the only head coaching experience you have in that group is older and probably wouldn't, even if he hired him, you probably wouldn't want to be the coach forever or for a super long time. So you'd have to look at external candidates too.
Then there's also this though, but what if we have completely ignored everything Matt Campbell has ever said out in the public?
Right.
And he is sitting at a recruiting house visit, opening up whatever it is, getting this information from somebody, and he is just laughing at us, freaking out because he knows he's not going anywhere. And maybe he doesn't even people say Notre Dame's a destination job for him, but maybe he being from Ohio and probably an Ohio State guy growing up, and they hate Notre Dame. He's just laughing at this. He's like, I ain't going to Notre Dame. Why would I do that? I don't. There's also that aspect of me. We have heard Matt Campbell say these things, and he's always said actions speak louder than words. I got into this business to be to do something, not be somebody. He's been laying all this for us, and right now it's just the
just refusing to listen to it.
And we aren't even listening to him, and he's just fuck you guys, but I'm also staying because I love it here.
Campbell and Pollard have been both extremely consistent for the last 6 years on, we're doing this the right way. We're trying to build it. We're trying to do this. We're not concerned about the money. We're trying to build young men. We're trying to build this program into being a championship program and all this. Been saying the same thing for 6 years. And this past weekend, all of us decided to listen to none of it. And just assume that he's just another head coach again.
To be fair, there's a lot of people on Twitter posting that stuff and saying Matt Campbell's been saying this stuff
right,
chill out.
It's not that nobody's listening to any of it. It's more just a lot of people are.
The problem is though, on the other hand of that all, there is a shit ton of smoke out there that you couldn't ignore it. It's just you had to look at the smoke because it was flying through the air rather than the words that you could see.
So there's a couple. I have seen this. This is an interesting point or whatever. So Mark said, it says as much as JP's hiding, he's had plenty of misses. Gene Chizik, Paul Rhodes, Kevin Jackson, Steve Prohm. There's a couple of there that I would not classify as miss. I would not classify Paul Rhodes as a miss, because what he did, he towards the end he wasn't great, but he did rebuild that fan base. Like the fan base was it wasn't like dead, but it was not anywhere near was. Even though towards the end he didn't win a lot of games, the fan base grew the whole time. Like he grew, like it went from like 35, it went from like around like 25,000 season ticket holders to like 40,000 under Paul Rhodes. Like, I mean, he or whatever it was.
He took the ground beef and made it into a patty before Campbell threw it on the grill.
Right, exactly. Like Rhodes' last few seasons were bad. Nobody's denying that. But what he built up on the side though, with the fan base, with reviving the fan base and getting people excited to watch Iowa State football again because of the Oklahoma State upset, and going to the Liberty Bowl and winning the Insight Bowl and stuff like that. I would not classify Rhodes as a failure. He was the guy that built that. If Matt Campbell built the foundation, Paul Rhodes excavated it, and he excavated and laid the dirt down so that Matt Campbell could put the foundation on top. Like that's how I see Paul Rhodes. I don't see him as a failure. Chizik is kind of an interesting one because he was only here 2 years and didn't win hardly any games. But one thing he did do well was recruit. He did bring in some nice players, like the two big ones, especially in Jake Knott and AJ Klein. Chizik was large, and Josh Lands. Like all those guys were large. He was responsible for bringing in a lot of really big time players to Iowa State. I think Kelechi Osemele would have been a Gene Chizik recruit. He brought in some nice players that helped transform Iowa State, and really was the fuel for Paul Rhodes being as good as he was early on. Was a lot of Chizik recruits. So you could, he didn't stay and he didn't win a lot of games. So, maybe you look back and say it's, Lean's failure, but even that one had some stuff. I'm trying to think what was the other names he brought up. Kevin Jackson. Oh, wrestling program. Yeah. Kevin Jackson was a miss, but
Chris Bowen should have been the head coach.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense though. Like
he's really, really good at Wisconsin.
But I mean, Kevin Jackson thing still made sense. So ISU alum, Olympic champion, all this. I mean, like he made sense as a coach. It just missed. Sometimes coaches don't work out. Steve Prohm is an interesting one. That's a whole that's a whole other that's a 30 for 30. Not like at the beginning it looked great, and then it looked not good, and then it kind of got a little bit better when they won the Big 12 title, and then it fell off, and it was clearly bad. There's a lot of stories that go around about the extenuating circumstances behind how Steve Prohm got hired. Don't need to really go into that because none of it's been like public or anything like that. So it's kind of hearsay for a lot of that stuff. But I would counter with look at the hires he has made: Matt Campbell, Fred Hoiberg. You go way back to Wayne Morgan. Like I mean, he and Chrissy Johnson Lynch. I think Chrissy Johnson Lynch was she a Pollard hire? I can't remember. But he has hired a lot of good coaches as well, where he has hit on coaches. So it's hard to. I mean, I would not say that. I would say that Jamie Pollard has generally done a good job hiring coaches, and more importantly, Jamie Pollard has done a really good job his whole career of navigating Iowa State through storms. Like when the conference realignment thing happened 10 years ago and then again this summer, Jamie Pollard did a really good job of doing his best to keep Iowa State point in the right direction. In the case of 10 years ago, keep them afloat. I think
we can do it this way. Jamie Pollard is good with the optics, like you're talking about with the Big 12 stuff. He's good with the
most of the time. Sometimes he comes off kind of petty and whatever, for the most part.
The strengths of his realm are the navigating,
PR,
and getting stuff built up around for infrastructure.
Yeah, infrastructure.
All that.
Agreed.
Where he lacks, and this is what I think Mark is trying to make the point is, for as good as the stuff does, his lacking area has been within the coaching stuff, whether it's, some of the rumors of stories with all the, things that have happened with certain coaches or whatever it may be out there. That's where he lacks. And it's not like it's a huge lack where it's been an insurmountable failure. Because if it was an insurmountable failure, he wouldn't be the athletic director still. So he's probably made more good hires, but it's also some of his misses within either A, dealing with certain coaches, or B, just flat out missing on the hire, there are also kind of some stains out there. So
sure,
you can
no
take
AD
it
is
with salt in a way too. So.
No AD is perfect. I mean, they all make bad hires at some point. I mean, like I don't know. I mean, they all make bad hires at some point, and some coaches are just gonna flop for whatever reason.
Hell yeah, Schwarbaum, baby.
There you
go.
This is actually a good point here too from Jordan. That he was voted for the president of the Association of Athletic Directors. So he's well respected.
Don't get it. Like, I mean,
we're not knocking, like nobody's here is knocking Jamie Pollard. I mean,
he's still widely regarded nationwide at being good at his job, but he also at the same time has the flaws that Mark was alluding to earlier.
Sure. But I think part of it too is he's grown. I think he's grown quite a bit too, and he's made better hires as his career has gone on. And the thing too is I don't think I've seen him truly make a hire that made no sense at all. Like even look back to Greg McDermott. Greg McDermott made a lot of sense. He was really good at UNI, Iowa native. Like it made a lot of sense. Now he just ended up flopping for one reason or the other. But Greg McDermott made a lot of sense at that point in time. It seemed like a really good hire. Fred Hoiberg did turn out to be a really good hire. Paul Rhodes, I thought, turned out to be a good hire. Gene Chizik, when he was hired, he was thought to be like a home run for Iowa State. Like that was like, damn, they got Gene Chizik kind of thing.
And also, he won a national title.
He won that. Right after he left Iowa State, won a national title.
So here's another thing too. I keep circling back on some things.
Yeah,
but
that's fine.
Dean Blevins. So this I guess this is like another proof. Like if you're worried about like Matt Campbell, like. I think this is kind of a thing that like nobody exactly really knows what goes on. But Dean Blevins, he works for a TV station in Oklahoma City, just tweeted out this, and this has to do with Riley.
Can you screen share it?
Probably. Let's move this around so people don't know how crazy I am. Still searching through message boards.
He's got 100 tabs open to different message boards and shit.
Don't worry about it, okay? Oh shit. Share.
Let's see.
So I find this interesting. Like, I think I kind of read through some of this stuff. I think some of the people actually really believe this. Let's close that.
Let's close the DMs.
So it's basically just saying like people in Oklahoma knew that Lincoln Riley was gone a long time ago.
So like he mailed it in. Like he mailed it in right away.
Yeah, or like should have known. Interesting.
So like if they were truly looking at it back in September, like yeah. So basically, if that's true, I mean he mailed it in.
Like,
he just said screw it.
Not saying like he had USC on his radar at that time, but like he was looking for an out.
Yeah, he was well because
actually true
because to kind of cross reference with that with some other rumors that were coming out was that he hated the move to the SEC, that he really did not want to go to the SEC. He thought it was a terrible idea, and
today he kind of backtracked on that, and Colin Cowherd and said that he was part of that whole process the entire time.
Wow, cool. I mean,
obviously he's gonna say that.
Obviously, he's gonna say that publicly, but from what I understand, though, like I mean, now what I say from what I understand is mostly just tweets that I've seen, but like didn't like the move to the SEC and also was trying to look for an out early at the beginning of the season. Really lines up. I mean that makes sense. That like
did he say that, Mark?
I don't know if he said that. Well. I don't know if he said that publicly, but like that was the general feeling is that he didn't want to go to the SEC. So it coincides with the timeline of wanting to bail at the beginning of the season. And then USC opened up midseason. He was probably like, hell yeah, man. Because you know who started landing a bunch of kids from Southern California? Lincoln Riley, who ended up
with a 5-star quarterback just this afternoon.
USC. It was Malachi Nelson's his name, the number one quarterback in the 2023 class. Just flipped from Oklahoma to USC, and you know where he's from? Southern California, or whatever. So it was kind of funny that it's like it's all lining up now that Lincoln Riley hated the move to the SEC, wanted to find an out. As soon as he found out that they fired the USC fired his coach and was going to be looking, he's like, damn, that sounds like a cool job. Whatever. So I don't know if he talked to USC or not, but then he said, if I get the USC job, I have some recruits I can flip or whatever that want to follow me as opposed to they want to commit to me instead of committing to Oklahoma necessarily. Whatever. So I'll land a bunch of 5 stars and 4 stars from the LA from the LA area or whatever, from Southern California, so I can just flip them when I go to USC. And sure as shit, that's what's happening.
Here's Luke Fickell today. They asked him about the rumors. And
oh my God,
his first thing he said was, "I don't know what there is to address."
That's I mean,
he didn't.
What's he supposed to say?
he didn't. I mean, he didn't deny it, but like, yeah, what's he supposed to say? He's like, yep, I get it. I don't know, man. That's a whole deal. I don't know what Luke Fickell, like, I don't know what his like demeanor is like. I don't know if he's like a Campbell kind of guy.
J-Dog, whoever you are.
Oh, it's 7-5, baby. Whoever's watching, take a drink.
Probably an Iowa fan.
Nice, Aiden. Is that a nice bit of water there?
Yep. Nothing
Nice.
but the best. Ames
Nice.
tap water, baby.
Hey. So I don't know what Luke Fickell's demeanor like. I don't know if he's like a Campbell guy that just doesn't like talking to anybody and just kind of does his own thing, or if he's
That's basically what he pretty much said after that. He's like, for a guy that keeps his head down and rarely answers his phone, I don't know what you want me to say.
right. It seems like Luke Fickell is very similar to Campbell in that way. And the funny thing about this whole thing too is that Matt Campbell is like kind of almost famously like he goes dark during the football season. Like nobody talks to him, and like nobody, like he doesn't like, and especially with the whole coaching staff, like the whole coaching staff gets like locked in during the season where they don't like contact the outside world, especially like during camp and stuff like that. And there's like a non-zero chance that like Campbell was largely oblivious to all the rumors going around. Like he probably like, if he did talk to USC and all this or whatever, assuming he did talk to USC, or like he probably knew that like some rumors were going to happen, but like there's a good chance that Matt Campbell did not know anywhere near like the amount of rumors that were going around online on Twitter and whatever else and Reddit and all that stuff. Like, well, I guarantee he might not know what Reddit is, but there's a good chance that Campbell doesn't like is largely oblivious to all this and is like, and if he saw it would sit back and be like, what the hell are these crazies talking about? Like crazies. Yes. All of us. If you're watching this, you are one of the crazies. And, Matthias pointing to a crazy here. Yeah. Right there. That guy's crazy. But yeah, so it's kind of funny because we're all sitting there freaking out, losing our minds over the weekend. Like Matt Campbell's probably just doing his own thing, whatever, going about his business, largely oblivious to the world around him that is currently on fire. I'm oddly less worried about Notre Dame, but also in the back of my head, I also know Notre Dame's more of a real possibility than USC ever probably is. So where I'm at, where I think I've settled, is that I'm less worried about him leaving. I'm less worried about him leaving, but I also know that if he gets an offer, he's basically gone. like there are other jobs that he could have been offered where he could have reasonably turned them down, like a Virginia Tech or something like that. Like if Virginia Tech had offered him the job, I think it's far from a guarantee that he would have gone there. I think it's probably almost more likely he would have stayed. But like so, like you can. Like there's some closure in there in that he's either not gonna go or like he's definitely gone. Like there's probably not gonna be much wishy-washy there. Like there's not gonna be a lot of gray area there on whether he's gonna go or whether he's not gonna go. Like if you hear like that they've interviewed him or that they've made an offer, you can probably assume he's gonna go, assuming the offer is real, because he's not gonna turn down Notre Dame. I don't know why anybody would. Like unless the LSU job opens up, I guess.
Apparently, kids on Skylifts turned down Notre Dame though.
Oof.
Oof. Oof. But
I'll see myself out.
it's always it's tricky to figure out where to land on this stuff and like how seriously to take it. Like in previous season when it was like Florida State and Tennessee and Arkansas, we can be like, he's not going to those schools. This one feels more real or whatever. It's like it's a good job. That's in a good stable position. Like you could take over right now and win. Matt Campbell could jump in right now to Notre Dame and win 11 or 12 games without even trying.
See, here's my thing. Matt Campbell isn't your everyday coach. He's not going to think the way that, and not to say that you're wrong, Levi, but we assume all these things that Notre Dame's a great job. You'd be crazy to not take it.
Right.
Matt Campbell's crazy enough to not take it.
He is crazy enough to not take it.
That's just how it is.
That is a great way to describe it. Is he is crazy enough to not take it. Doesn't mean he's not going to take it, but he means he's crazy enough that he might think about it.
Here's another fun. Let's do a segment with Matthias called "Fun with Message Boards." Here's the latest one.
If you got a good screen cap, definitely share it.
You're fucking making me work.
Well. But the people want to see this is going to be like, otherwise it'd be horrible radio.
You're horrible radio.
Wait, you're saying showing people things is good radio?
On YouTube it is.
So this is
what a radio is?
This is fun. This is the stuff you get on message boards that everybody thinks they know somebody. But This one's kind of fun.
No way of confirming this, as this was in a Siegfried Hall alumni group chat, and it seems too good to be true. But where is this from? This is Notre Dame. It also is too good not to share. Our first-year associate is a Notre Dame guy who worked in the AD's office all 3 years of law school. His friend that still works there said Notre Dame is working on an offer for Freeman. Apparently, Freeman chewed Kelly's shit. Kelly chewed Kelly's ass. I don't know. It's four asterisk, so I don't know what it could be.
They're at Notre Dame. They're idiots.
Whatever. At the team meeting this morning, and players loved it. Senior leadership went to AD demanding Freeman be the guy.
If that's true, that is goddamn awesome. And
that's awesome. That's awesome. Now I want him to be, not just because it would keep Matt Campbell here, but now I want Freeman to be the coach of Notre Dame. Well, like I might just become like a backup Notre Dame fan just so I can cheer for Marcus Freeman at this point.
Oh.
If they hire Matt
you backup Notre Dame fan, Matisse Schwarzkopf. Oh my God.
Go Irish.
Talk about hedging your bets.
Yeah, well, when you live in Illinois, things happen.
But what's funny though is like, while that's kind of a wild story and it makes him sound way cooler, like that is not out of line from anything that I've seen about Marcus Freeman. Like it sounds like it is resoundingly everybody wants Marcus Freeman to be the coach of Notre Dame.
And I wonder if it had something to do with maybe he's just fed up with Brian Kelly, and this was his chance.
Well, and and people were saying this, and one of the reporters for Notre Dame was saying today, he's just reading between the lines of Schwarbrick today, he was like, maybe he's kind of relieved Brian Kelly's gone.
Why would that be?
I don't know. Maybe he's just hard to work with. You just know how the reputation of Brian Kelly is out there in the world. People, you either like him or you hate him.
Sure.
And pretty much if you're not a Notre Dame fan, you more than likely hate Brian Kelly just because he comes off as a complete asshat.
Yeah, sometimes he does, yeah.
So is he like that when you work with him at Notre Dame? I don't know. But maybe there was a lot of tension building up between the two because of these facility upgrades that weren't happening, and he was just happy he was gone. And he didn't have to answer those questions anymore.
Sure.
Or maybe he likes Marcus Freeman a lot more. That's why they were willing to say he's the head coach in waiting.
Well, there might be some meat to the thing where it's someone saying they didn't name an interim coach because they're just going to name Freeman the head coach.
Yeah.
And that would actually, that makes a lot of sense. Because there's no sense in appointing him the interim coach and then making him the full-time head coach 3 days later. There's no point to that. So you might as well just say, everybody keep recruiting like you were, or whatever, and then we'll get it figured out, and then later this week you can say, congratulations, Marcus Freeman, the next head coach of Notre Dame football, and then you have this outpouring of support from all the fans, all the recruits that said that they wanted him, and you can have this big hurrah Notre Dame moment when you announce Marcus Freeman as the head coach. It just makes way too much sense to not happen. And like one thing I would say one thing that's been annoying about this whole process.
It just needs the fucking end.
It needs a fucking end, for one, because I'm tired of it. But two is that it's one of those things where everybody thinks they've got a guy, or they've got a source, or they've got a source that knows what they're talking about, or whatever, because they don't. Well, I said it twice, and I had to.
I was really confused why you were doing that.
I said it twice. But anyways, so they've got a person that knows what they're talking about because they're a donor or whatever. Like, oh, my boss, or it's just some guy that donates a bunch of money or whatever it is. Is like everybody thinks they've got an in, or God forbid if they think that they know something about the relationship between Jamie Pollard and Matt Campbell or whatever it is. Like whatever nonsense you could possibly come up with that. Like
it's gone so long and drawn out. Like, and it's not even that long. It's been literally 4 days,
like 3 days, 4 days. Yeah.
Last game ended, but it's like, it's so high tensioned that there are anything and everything for stories being tossed out.
If you can find a thread to follow, they will follow it all the way to the very, very end. And it's just driving people crazy. And the funny thing about this Notre Dame, or not funny, the terrible part about this Notre Dame thing is that there was also a report from Dennis Dodd from CBS that said that Notre Dame was going to target Luke Fickell, and that they'd be willing to wait for him. Well, Luke Fickell's probably going to be coaching in the playoff, which means that he's not going to be available till mid-January. So theoretically, as if Notre Dame decided not to hire Marcus Freeman and wanted to go after Luke Fickell, they would have to wait a month before they could hire him, which means that we would be sitting here for a month wondering what the hell's going on. Because even if they say they're going to target Fickell, if Luke Fickell doesn't want the job, he doesn't want the job. So they can wait a month and a half, and then Luke Fickell turns him down, and we're right back to where we started. And then Matt Campbell becomes target number one, and we start worrying all over again. So that's kind of like the situation too here, is if they do truly are planning on sitting and waiting for Luke Fickell, then we're going to be sitting here for the next month and a half, wondering what the hell's going on with the Notre Dame job. I mean, I think we're all in agreement, so that would be stupid for Notre Dame to wait that long to announce a head coach. That would be very bad.
I think it would be stupid on all parts, because, like, I mean, it would definitely be stupid on Notre Dame's part, but like, then at that point, probably Matt Campbell's somewhat connected to the Notre Dame job. Like,
sure.
Something would have to come out on Iowa State's end to say, like, it's not going to happen because we're going to do this for Matt Campbell.
Right.
But we haven't seen anything.
We haven't seen an extension yet.
If it gets to that point, something will have to be done for us to really just put it to bed. That way, it's done.
Yeah. And that's I think that's probably what's frustrating people as much as anything too, is that we haven't seen an extension, which, like, it's usually like within like 4 or 5 days after the end of the season, we usually see a Matt Campbell extension, and we haven't seen that yet.
But here's the counterpoint to all that, where we've gone, and I don't know how many years in a row we've gone this extension route. It's been almost every year other than the 3 and 9 year.
Yeah.
At what point do you, as Jamie Pollard, have to say, look, we've given you raises every year. We've given you the staff's raises every year. Your coordinators are making $1 million. That's a very high paid coordinator.
That's a well-paid coordinator.
We've built you a $90 million facility. We've added on to football facilities. We've given you a huge locker room. We've done all this. We added
a black uniform.
We've given you your uniforms you wanted. We've added on to the stadium. We've developed the stadium. We've developed around Jack Trice's team. We have given you everything. At this point in time, we can't do another extension because we just signed you to another 8-year extension.
What more do you want? Yeah.
And then, I mean, the harsh reality of it is, Matt, we love you as an Iowa State head coach, but you just went 7-5. Let's pump the brakes on this. Win the bowl game. Maybe we can readdress it after that. But also next year, show us what you can do with the younger team and overachieve. If you overachieve with that team, we'll go through this process once again.
Mm-hmm. And
you can't really just keep handing out extensions every single year just because the guy is highly sought after. Yeah, he's if he's highly sought after once,
he's still got to produce. Yeah,
he's still going to be highly sought after the next year. So and you just can't just say, oh, well, we'll call off the dogs and we'll give him an extension. Nobody will call again. Okay, well, then you're doing it next year. Then you're doing it the year after that, which we've done in the last 4 years. And then at that point in time, you got a coaching staff that expects to get an extension because they're going to walk into Jamie Pollard's office someday and be like, all right, well, Florida State just called once again. They want us to come down and coach. What are you going to do about it? And one of the times Pollard be like, we can't. And maybe that's what's happened right now.
And it's interesting too because so Mark Stoops just signed a new contract with Kentucky, and his interesting thing is he's got an incentive in there that says anytime he wins 7 games, he gets another year, an automatic 1-year extension. Anytime he wins 10 games, he gets an automatic 2-year extension on his contract. So it's basically just an automatically extending contract that as long as he keeps winning, he keeps getting years no matter what. And that's kind of an interesting thing. So basically the idea is that as long as Mark Stoops wants to be at Kentucky, he's got a contract or whatever. So it's an interesting thing. I don't know does Iowa State want to do that, or I think that would be a good idea. I like that idea. I don't know if Matt Campbell would agree to that. But something like that would be interesting or whatever if Jamie Pollard wanted to do something like that. Basically just an automatically renewing. Well, and it's like Gundy has a contract that he gets every year. Like he always has 4 years on retainer. Every year it's an automatic extension. I think both parties agree to it, it's an automatic extension every year. So he's always got an extra 3 or 4 years on retainer or something like that, where it's just an automatically extending contract.
Yeah, and it's just the thing. Like you can't just as fans expect every time Jamie Pollard, because we feel threatened by another school or job. We can't just expect Jamie Pollard to come out with a extension every time. It's just not like you can't. And like especially after last year where we saw people in the offices at the athletic facilities take pay cuts, and the financial aspect of the athletic department probably still isn't recovered. We don't know what those books look like. Like you can't just say, okay, well, we have this much room to give Matt Campbell and his staff an extension and more money. But then there's also the thing where in 2 years, like the Big 12 could be gone. Like are we going to overextend the budget of the athletic department because we feel threatened because Matt Campbell might leave to USC? But like there's a lot of other factors that I don't think fans like us are thinking about all the time, because it's more of a rash. Like we need to do this now, keep Matt Campbell. Yeah, I get that, but there's also 30 other factors that go into play here.
Right. So yeah, the worst part, we might have a resolution to this tomorrow, and we might not have it for a month and a half. And I think that's the part that annoys me the most, is not only do I not have closure on whether Matt Campbell's going to be here or not, I don't know when I'm going to get closure. I think that's the stressful part for me. Like, so I'm the kind of person, and people may have kind of figured this out too, whereas I'm just based on how many like different things we've tried as a site and whatever, and different projects we start up and all this, is I'm the kind of person that I love starting new projects. Like it's coming up with something new we can do, or a new way to do something, or whatever it is. Like the Nightcap was a great example. Or we have we did some gaming stuff there for a little while, or it may still do more in the future, but we've got a bunch of different things that we've kind of tried and experimented around, just different projects or whatever. I love doing that kind of stuff. I love coming up with new projects, and I love organizing them, and I get excited when I think about the new possibilities for a new direction. Like, what can we do with this if we're doing something new? And Jason Eastwood in their comments is trying to make everybody drink. He's got them all right in there.
Well, Football Scoop just dropped some new news today.
Football Scoop's usually a pretty good one for coaching.
So basically, they're saying they're going through all the coaches that kind of have so far turned down Brian Kelly at LSU. Obviously, the big one so far is the strength and conditioning coach, Matt Bayless. They basically confirmed that on the Notre Dame Twitter feed today. He had a video talking to the players, saying they have much more to play for, finish the season off strong. Tommy Rees is not as of now in Baton Rouge. Nobody knows 100%, but they assume he's on the road recruiting for Notre Dame. And that's the thing about Notre Dame too. Like Schwarbrick wants to meet with these guys, but they're all out on the road, and he's told them to stay on the road. So like, don't come back. So like, they may not even be back till Friday. It's Tuesday now. So where do they go from there? But according to Football Scoop, Notre Dame search could move quickly. Are Marcus Freeman and Luke Fickell the Irish's top choices? And in this, just quickly skimming really quick, it's a really long article going through this, but there is no mention of Matt Campbell in this entire article.
For Notre Dame.
For Notre Dame, from Football Scoop.
And Football Scoop's usually a pretty good source for this kind of stuff. I think they're usually pretty plugged into the coaching stuff. So yeah, and it's interesting too, because we assume that Matt Campbell is linked to the job and that Notre Dame's gonna be interested. We assume that because that's kind of what we've always just believed would be the case. But it's not like Matt Campbell or Notre Dame ever publicly came out or anybody connected to the program came out and said, this is what it is. Wherever, like, we're definitely going to get a hold of that.
So this is what it says. This is basically what his scoop is that if this search were to occur 5 years from now, Tommy Rees would be the leading candidate for the job. But numerous sources have told Football Scoop throughout the day Tuesday that Notre Dame's search has primarily focused on two early targets: defensive coordinator Marcus Freeman and Cincinnati head coach Luke Fickell.
Okay, and not a mention of Matt Campbell.
No mention of Matt Campbell through this entire article. And usually, Football Scoop throughout this whole entire process has not posted anything like speculative about any of the coaches, unless they think one of them is going to be right. Like, there was nothing from Football Scoop really about Matt Campbell to USC. They did mention him something about Washington, but that was just after the fact.
Right.
But they've been pretty spot on with most of their coaching changes here.
Yeah.
Coaching changes, scoops over the course. So,
I mean, like I said, we were kind of all working on assumptions, assuming that both Matt Campbell would be interested and Notre Dame would be interested in Matt Campbell. We were all working on that assumption, but without really any like hard evidence or anything like that, or anything confirmed that he's definitely like would take the Notre Dame job, or that Notre Dame is definitely going to be interested in him.
He probably wants the Notre Dame job. Like, he would take it, but
it would make a lot of sense.
Do I want you as much as you want me?
Right.
Kind of scenario.
Right. So I don't know, but like what I was saying before too, for the Football Scoop thing is, I like getting into projects and new projects, and I get excited about new things, about what direction they can go and where you can take them. So like, I would be bummed if Matt Campbell left, knowing what he built and and what he can do and what we know he can do. I would be personally kind of one of the sickos that would be like, all right, I'm kind of excited for this. Who can we hire? See what we can do, and kind of keep going. Like my grieving process would be probably extraordinarily short. Because I would be.
These are kind of fun, but I also don't want to go through it.
Well, I think the difference though about doing your own coaching search, or as opposed to your coach being involved in a coaching search, is when your coach is the one being involved in a coaching search with another school, you're trying to figure out, and you're worried about what is the best thing and what makes sense for somebody else. You're trying to figure out what somebody else needs to succeed or what they want. When you're going through your own coaching search, you're trying to figure out, what do we want? What's the direction we should go? And trying to self-diagnose, and then figure out what the best direction is a lot more fun than trying to figure out what somebody else is going to do. And trying to determine the motives of somebody that you don't have any connection to, and there's no reason you should know anything about them. So you're swinging at ghosts basically. Whereas your own coaching search, you're self-diagnosing. You're saying, all right, what can we do this? What if we went with Jeff Monk, to go to an extreme. What if we went, with Jeff Monk, and what would that look like? Well, we'd be a triple option team, and we would try to do this. What would that look like? Not saying that's a good idea, just picking extreme. Or let's say you were going to pick, well, what if we got Mike Leach? Remember, what if we just went full air raid? What would that look like? that's kind of fun, hypothesizing what different styles work and what might work with the current personnel, all that. It's that stuff is fun for me anyway. For some people it might not be, but I think that stuff is really fun on figuring out how the puzzle pieces come together.
I vote Coach O to come to Ames.
Coach O. That would be such a weird fit. I would enjoy it, but that would be the weirdest fit of all time.
Yeah. As soon as they beat Texas A&M this weekend, I think they're bowl eligible, aren't they?
LSU?
Yeah.
That sounds right.
So they won to become bowl eligible, and he said him and his girlfriend are driving to Destin, Florida.
Nice.
Because after you go 6-6 at LSU, who wouldn't want to go to Destin, Florida, and drive there?
Nothing says 6-6 like Destin, Florida.
Yeah, no kidding.
Go Tigers.
Mark wants does ISU poach an assistant NFL coach? No chance. If you're in the NFL, you stay in the NFL. You don't go backwards. You could find a. Well, we're not Alabama.
Did someone say Matt Nagy would be looking for a job?
Oh my God.
Not here.
Iowa State could have a shot at a Power 5 coordinator or a G5 head coach, I think. I don't think you're pulling any Power 5 head coach. Not that I can think of. I can't think of anyone like.
I'd hate to really beat the dead horse here, but there is some other things we can discuss.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for forever.
So basketball obviously had a great weekend, but it also can get better this week because Trey King tomorrow is apparently announcing his decision, and Iowa State feels
pretty good about their spot.
Good.
Yeah. I don't have any inside info from what I understand anyways from what's going on is that Iowa State's got a pretty good chance at landing him. He played at Western Kentucky last year? Does that sound right?
Yeah.
He played at Western Kentucky, was at Georgetown, but hasn't played at all because Georgetown is going back in the tank with Patrick Ewing. So he's trying to get out of there while he still can. So here's a funny comment. So Matt Coker said we could hire Jim Harbaugh. You know what's funny is back in 2007 when I believe it's back in 2007 when we hired Gene Chizik. The other leading candidates for that were Brian Kelly and Jim Harbaugh were two big candidates along with Gene Chizik for the job in 2007. So we could have had Jim Harbaugh or Brian Kelly. Now, assuming Brian Kelly, if he was good at Iowa State, he probably would have moved on again. But Brian Kelly and Jim Harbaugh were both significant candidates in the coaching search until we ended up on Gene Chizik. So that's kind of funny that you mentioned Jim Harbaugh. But
boy,
what was that? What do you mean, boy? What?
No comment.
Are you kidding me right now?
Stand by.
What? You can't just make that face and that noise and then just fucking walk away.
Hold on.
Oh my God. What is this? What have we got here? Oh shit. Is it what's in the Slack?
No.
Oh, okay.
What is it?
Oh, so it's on Twitter. It's impossible to know if it's actually real. I don't think it is, but it's an online job posting for the Iowa State head football coach. But yeah, that doesn't mean it's real. I think it's even on LinkedIn or something like that.
Yeah, I was trying to find what that.
I'm pretty sure it's LinkedIn, which it's that shit's not going to be on LinkedIn. That's the dumbest shit of all time. So funny. Here you go. Heard Pete Carroll's going to be looking for a job. Well, Pete Carroll is a former Iowa State assistant, so maybe he wants to come home. Who knows? Let's see. Isn't Pete Carroll 70 something though? He's way older than you think he is. Pete Carroll. He's way older than you think he is.
70 something.
Yeah, he's old. I assume if he gets fired from the Seahawks, he's just going to be he's just going to be done. Like, he's just going to retire. But can you share what you were saying shit for?
No.
No?
I don't know if it's true.
Oh. All right then. That is an unfortunate little teaser for the viewers, but it is what it is. What else we got to talk about here? Obviously, basketball is in good shape though, undefeated, ranked number 19. How about shout out TJ Otzelberger for getting everything turned around that fast from 2-26 to number 19 in the country.
Not bad for year zero, if I do say so.
Not bad. And I'll be the first to admit I was not a fan of the TJ Otzelberger hire when he was hired. Like, I was not really a big fan of that. I thought it was kind of a lazy hire. But I'm perfectly willing to say I was dead wrong on that. The team is playing hard. They're playing great defense. They're inconsistent shooting, but you can tell that there's some competency there on offense. They know what they're doing. They just can't knock down the shots. You got Alias Kunch, or I can't remember. Is it Kunz? I can't remember how to pronounce it. Jazz Kunz, or whatever. And Gabe Kalsher's been really good. Like, Isaiah Brockington's been outstanding. Like, there's been a lot of really nice players so far. They've played great defense, playing with energy. Well, I mean, that's more than I asked for. It's like, that is what I asked for. I just wasn't expecting the wins to come with it. My thing before the season is like, as long as these guys look competitive and look like they give a shit, that's fine. Then I'll be happy for year zero with what that is. But not only do they give a shit, but they're winning basketball games. And I don't know how they're doing it, but they're doing it. And I couldn't be happier with that. I have to kind of admittedly, I kind of checked out on basketball a little bit last year, especially. Like, there was plenty of times where you guys had to remind me there was a basketball game for a recap or something like that. But I'll have to recalibrate myself now. I have recalibrated myself to having to really being locked in on basketball again. So I'm happy about that, because that was always the thing I enjoyed. That was I love football games, but especially when I was at Iowa State, which would have been 2010 to 2000, the winter of 2014. So Fred Hoiberg, going to Hilton was a whole different animal. I love football games, but man, I loved going to basketball games. That was a full Hilton was more fun than a full Jack Trice back then. So I'm more than ecstatic that Hilton Coliseum is probably going to be really good again, because it deserves to be really good.
Except they removed seating for the student section.
Yeah, except for they took away student seating, and the lighting sucks and all that. So hopefully they turn the lights up a little bit, make it a little bit brighter in there. I've heard from plenty of people well, they got new lighting. It's got new LED lighting instead of that old arena lighting. It's well, you're great. LEDs can recreate anything you want. You can recreate that lighting with LEDs. It's not hard at all. You're just changing brightness and hues. That's all you're doing. And there's no reason we can't replicate the old lighting with LEDs. It can be done. And I would very much like to see that, because when you see the lighting during the Oklahoma comeback in 2015 or the Kansas upsets or something like that, it's just awesome. It's just incredible. It's nice and bright in there. It just looks a lot different than any other arena when it was really well lit. And God damn it, Matthias, you got me all thrown for a loop. Anyways,
ignore me for
just taking itself off the stream. Let's see, what do we got? Do we got Cubs Corner this week, Aiden?
We do. All
right, let's get to Cubs Corner, and maybe Matthias will be back in time.
So, here's what we got. Look is back.
Yeah, Matthias is back.
I'm here for this.
All right. So, as you can see, I am starting to kind of take control of this. I started 1-6, which was
you started off real bad.
But since then, we're, what is that, 24, 11-1?
Yep.
Not bad. So, this week I'm taking Georgia -6.5. I do not think Alabama is that good, and Georgia's defense is unreal. So I don't know if Georgia's offense will score that much, but I think they'll win by more than 6.5. And then the game that everyone cares about most, the MAC championship, got to take the favorites, Kent State. I think I bet on them 3 or 4 times this year, so if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And then the ACC, give me the over at 72.5 because these teams score at will. I believe Wake Forest had a game that went to 70 this year, while also giving up 56 to Army, who runs the triple options.
Right.
So,
you meant 56 to Army. Yeah.
Right. Team that walks down the field, basically. And that's what I got this week.
All right. Wake Forest and Pitt, the ACC championship we all expected. Definitely not Clemson, Miami. Wake Forest and Pitt. I like Georgia on that 6.5 too. They're just at like Alabama's like good, but Georgia's is a different level of good. And I think that loss will knock Alabama out of the playoff for the first time ever. I think they've made the playoff every year, if I remember correctly.
1 year.
Did they miss it 1 year?
When Tua got hurt.
Maybe. Kent State on the money line. I'll take Kent State on the money line. I like that too. They do have a nice quarterback. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but Kent State does have a good quarterback.
Julian Edelman.
Yeah. And then I'll take the over on Wake Forest and Pitt too. They both score a million points. So I'm totally on board with that. I don't think I've got I'll take if we're doing individual picks, I'll take Oklahoma State on the money line.
Well, you told me we weren't doing those this week, so we get nothing in like it.
Well, I'm gonna do it anyways. Matthias, what you got?
I'll take Georgia on that 6.5. Also, is Rocky Lombardi playing in the MAC championship?
Oh, for Northern Illinois?
Yes.
So Rocky Lombardi is the Northern Illinois quarterback.
Give me the Huskies.
Ooh.
And then
which one is he from? What is he from Valley?
Yeah.
He was from Valley.
Yep, he went to Michigan State first and transferred.
Right, yep. So, he was like a 4-star, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think something like that.
He was pretty highly rated.
And then, excuse me. Then give me the over on that Wake Forest Pitt game, just because for funzy. And is that it? That's all we're doing. No other outside
games. Did you pick
games.
The MAC game?
The what?
Did you pick the middle one?
Yeah, Northern Illinois.
Oh, yeah, duh. Sorry.
Did you take the over on Wake Forest, you said?
Yes.
Nice. All right. So that was Cubs Corner.
Cubs Corner.
Josh is out again this week. I think he's on dad duty. I think
he's on double dad duty.
He's on double dad duty. He's actually watching someone else's kids too. So hopefully we'll get him back next week, and then we'll get back to our normal games. Especially because we won't have a game week. Like we won't. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe next week we'll either be drinking in celebration or drinking in sorrow. Who knows? But yeah, either way, we won't have a game. Actually, next week we'll be talking about bowl game. I would imagine we'll get because we'll have our bowl announcement on Sunday. Sounds like the leading candidates right now are the Cheez-It, which used to be the Camping World Bowl, and which is confusing though because there was the Cheez-It Bowl, which was at the back end of which was like the worst Big 12 bowl, and now it's like the third best. I don't know, it's kind of weird. And then also the Texas Bowl in Houston, I think are the two leading candidates right now. I think that's what Jamie Pollard said on the coach's show the other night was Houston or Orlando for the bowl game. So for those of you hoping to go back to Memphis again, it doesn't seem like it's going to be that.
Freak shoot, darn.
You guys got anything else before we wrap it up?
Nope.
I don't either. I think I'm all talked out.
Yeah, what a night.
What a night.
What a night.
Aiden, you want to send us out?
For Levi Stevenson, Matthias Schwarzkopf, I'm Aiden Wyatt. Enjoy yourself and go Cyclones.